Hi, I'm Cheryl Hamada. Welcome to Extreme Homes, the program that takes you to some of the world's most unusual houses. Some are grandiose, some are minuscule, each and every one is unique. We'll also introduce you to the people who live in these awesome abodes, these quirky quarters, these surprising shelters, and we'll find out what it's like to be in a place that always merits a second and sometimes even a third glance. Today we'll be visiting a California house that took its inspiration from a small creature that lives in swamps, and a Wisconsin home that was built out of scraps and leftovers and throwaways. Welcome back to Extreme Homes. We're in southeastern Wisconsin, not far from Madison. Some 10 years ago, after an ice storm left them without power for many days, Dolly and Eli Kramer became disillusioned with the typical American way of life in a suburban house.
So we looked for land and found this here 20 acres. And we had enough money to put in a well and some concrete money and roofing money. So I salvaged barn materials and recycled a lot of stuff, and there's approximately 3 parts of barns in here, or full barns in here.
It's a homemade house made with the timbers and stones, used glass, recycled glass. No plaster. We have no plaster at all. The walls are basically stone and wood.
Everything here is that I've got, other than off of Mother Earth, was going to be burned or bulldozed or buried. There's glass off of courthouses. There's stone here from churches they knocked down. There's brick from railroad buildings. Always little dabs.
Eli knew exactly what to do with that stuff, and his inventive use of salvage materials attracted so much attention, the Kramers put up a gate to keep the curious at bay.
And we hear all kinds of comments. Weird. What's that? Wow. Is that gorgeous?
The doctor must live there.
Yeah. You wouldn't believe the comments we get.
And I have yet to have anybody believe that it didn't take a lot of money to do this. It took a lot of back and a lot of sweat and a little bloody here and there and some broken bones, but it can be done. Anybody can do it.
Great believers in self-sufficiency, the Kramers grow much of their own food, and their water comes directly from the sky.
The roof is a hyperbolic paraboloid, and that catches the rainwater, and it feeds through a Roman aqueduct and goes into above-ground cistern, which gravity feeds to the gardens down below. Well, we have our garden split in 2 here. I do part of the bottom gardens here. I do the corn, potatoes, and tomatoes, and onions, and Dolly does everything up here and this here on this part.
There's not a lot of big ones yet there. There's one. That does it. I have some nice raised beds up here which we put in about 2 years ago.
Inside for Eli, as often as not, means working in his studio where he crafts improvements to their house, as well as a variety of items for paying customers and friends. Among his specialties are handmade signs,
Party sign,
and custom-crafted boxes he calls life boxes, which people use to store their personal collections and treasures. And in a way, the Kramer house is like one big life box. When we come back, we'll go inside. Welcome back to Extreme Homes. We're with Dolly and Eli Kramer in their handmade Wisconsin house. It took Eli some 6 years to construct the house. Much of that time he lived here alone in a cave-like structure that is now part of their entryway. And even when Dolly moved in, the house was hardly complete.
I had saws in this house for, I bet, 2 years. And dust constantly. He'd work at it and I'd vacuum, and he'd work and I'd vacuum, and it was just ongoing, non-stop dust.
But the results have clearly been worth it. Every room in the house reflects Eli Kramer's resourceful artistry.
It's a small kitchen. It's basically for 1 or 2 people to be working in. I have shelves in my kitchen. I don't have all kitchen cabinets. I have a lot of shelves that I store my macaroni and spices and cookbooks, and they're hand-carved ones out of cherry.
I do a lot of things. I haven't got a clue what it's going to look like. That's the fun part of it. I don't even know what I'm doing, so it works out, you know, for a lot of it. And I really enjoyed doing the vaulted ceilings in the pantries and the root cellars. You don't know what you're doing because you're working upside down. You're working on top of forms, and until you kick the wedge blocks out from underneath and the whole thing collapses in and you say, oh, it actually stayed up there, and then you get to see it for the first time.
No one should be surprised to find a vintage footed tub in the bathroom. But Eli's ingenuity goes beyond reclaiming old items. He takes discarded objects and gives them a completely new function.
Well, the hood over the bathtub, the recycled bathtub, is made out of scrap copper, and it's all hand-hammered with a ball-peen hammer, and there's 109 handmade rivets in that that's holding that thing together up there. If you look at it really close, there's a brass dragon that's wrapped all the way around that thing, holding it together. And it's a mythology dragon that's wrapped around the world, if you've ever seen that, and he's biting his tail. In other words, we're still hanging on here, and he's hanging on to his tail.
Eli takes his inspiration wherever it comes. A tragedy spurred one of his favorite creations.
There's a door back in the entranceway there. It's lots of little pieces of copper on it, tacked on. It's called the Challenger door. I was building back there, and I had this door to do, and I didn't know what to do with it. Creativity isn't there all the time, you know, and the radio was on, and the spaceship, the Challenger, blew up, and I went up and snapped the television on, and they were telling about it. And the only thing, when I snapped that first picture, it went through those plumes of smoke, and there goes 6 people. And I come back, and I had a scrap bucket of copper stuff laying there. I always save everything because I think I want to use it. And I give it a kick because I was ticked, and it flew all over the floor. All these little pieces I saved for years and years. And I thought, there's the door, the Challenger door. And so I nailed every one of them pieces on that door back there.
Another favorite is the dining table.
I think the booth is probably the best. We like it here. And we designed this together, and it's the wood is from our piece of earth here, and the booths are made out of the split cherry trees and the big crotches, and because the ants ate up all the wood out of the middle of the core, I just love that sort of stuff. I couldn't duplicate this with carving chisels and everything else, and of course this is stuff that we throw away all the time when it's not good enough to use. So, well, we're all wood heat here. The land provides our fuel. We work hard at doing that. That's about it.
I use my cook stove a lot in the wintertime, probably more so than in the summertime. Although I do use it for canning. I can tomatoes and beans and carrots and jellies, jams, just whatever I have out there.
Well, we have free air conditioning from Mother Earth. I have a cave in the back here we can open up and get the coolness from it. And sometimes it gets a little bit too cool in the summertime, and when the neighbors are down there sweating and cussing about 95, I say, well, I guess I'm going to go home and make a fire.
The room upstairs is basically our living room, our sitting room, reading room. The other room was an add-on. We started with a screened-in porch. We were going to build a screened-in porch. And then we got to thinking, it sure would be nice if it was all glassed in. So we put glass on it, and it's glass on 3 sides. It's very quiet. We really enjoy it.
Well, I built this place thinking I was going to die here. I mean, I'm living this experience, and I'm enjoying it, and I feel alive here, and I never thought that I might get rid of it. This stretch of my life here working on this homestead here is My whole life is when I felt the most alive. It's that simple. And you have goals and purposes, and of course it's always survival, and you work really hard. I'm not embarrassed about screws and bolts holding stuff together. You know, it's like there's water pipes in the house, but I don't hide them in the walls where you have to rip the walls off to fix them. They're out there where if they need some fixing, I can do it, you know. It's been a good purpose for my life, and it's been very fulfilling. And I can't think of having a life without having this part of it and this chance to do this.
Eli and Dolly Kramer will be enjoying the fruits of their labors in their one-of-a-kind recycled haven. I hope you enjoyed the houses we visited today on Extreme Homes. They're prime examples of the ingenuity and inventiveness of people all across America. People who say that home is not only where the heart is, it's where whimsy and wonder and sometimes wackiness reside too. Join us next time on Extreme Homes, where the only thing you can expect is the unexpected.